is the Leaders Anchor Show. Let yourself be inspired by real-world leaders and their experience. Sharing knowledge is what it's all about. Learning from experience. See what real-world leaders have to say.
Welcome everyone to the Leaders Anchor Show. Today we have special guests for you, young leaders from all over the world doing amazing things. And for my immediate left, we have the amazing Krishna Gandhi, who represents a company called Simonics. And next to her would be Mr. Onye Anyado, who represents Onye Anyado Media House. We have amazing young man here, Sabiru Islam, who represents a company called 1 Million, Inspire 1 Million, beg your pardon. And then we have a young man who always likes to be known wearing hats, Mr. Junior, who represents Junior Enterprise. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
And welcome to the Leaders Anchor. I'm quite enthusiastic to know about a name, which I think would set the pace for today's discussion. And prior to that, I'd like to also pay our special respects to Nelson Mandela. We revere him. He's a world-class leader. He's been a lot of inspiration to most young people all over the world. When you visit Westminster now, you would find his monument, and a lot of people take photos with his monument more than any other. It's amazing. So tell me, my dear lady, that the only lady we have on the show, what comes to mind when you think about your name? It's a huge responsibility, if you ask me. What's the first thing that comes to mind carrying a name like that? How did you get a name like that in the first place?
My grandma named me, and obviously the last name Gandhi is my paternal name, but normally it's a guy's name, and she just said, well, if it's a girl, it's going to be Krishna. And my mother's quite a spiritual person later on in life, and I think when she was carrying me, she was reading a lot of stuff that was spiritual from all kind of religions, spiritually and stuff like that. So maybe, I don't know, I mean, it certainly wasn't a conscious thing, but I suppose a name is the first label you give a child, and it's the first identification, isn't it? So if the child will then kind of grow into it. So it's I think names are quite important, just because it gives it something substantial. It's already kind of instilled values.
Sure.
And then, I'm not sure if every child does that, but it's a good ground to start off with, because it's automatically implied values that you kind of live by.
Exactly. So. Well, the name Gandhi, and we'll talk about, I'd like to find out from you, Junior. What do you know about Gandhi? What type of leader do you think Mahatma Gandhi was?
Gandhi, he's one of the icons of the time, really, in terms of setting examples. Gandhi's story, I love it because he practiced what he preached, and as leaders, I don't think many people did that quite like he did. To the brutal extent where he would still hold dear to his values, which I think all the other leaders that we saw come after him, like Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, they sort of embodied that same principle, sticking by your values despite the mental torment, the physical torment. You still stick by your values, that this is what I'm going to stand by, and I think that's one thing we really got to commend Gandhi for.
Amazing. So Sabiru, tell me, well, I look at you, you're a young man full of energy and life. When you think about Gandhi, do you see some similarities, the way you live your life and that of Gandhi?
Well, you fight for your people. You fight for your people, for whatever they represent, whatever you want to represent, as for your, not only your nation but for the world, because you're trying to portray a message that doesn't impact not only the people around you but on a global scale. And I think that's what true leadership is. You know, you fight for your people in order for them to have a better life. Yes, you may struggle along the way, you may face difficulties along the way, and Gandhi faced that, of course, you know, and all the true leaders of this world, they go to extreme lengths in order to see the smile on their people's face. Amazing. And I think that is the true value of leadership.
That is the true value of leadership. Talking about the true value of leadership, and I would quickly move to my young man here, smartly dressed in suit. Anya, tell me about visionary type of leadership. What do you think? Who is a visionary leader?
Okay, I think we first have to define who and what a visionary leader. As you said, last year I read that a visionary leader is a leader of excellence who sees what others do not see, achieves for now but plans for the future, positively impacts different generations, and raise up other visionaries.
Amazing.
A visionary is a leader of excellence who sees what others do not see, achieves for now but plans for the future, positively impacts different generations, and raise up other visionaries.
Incredible. I mean, it's this amazing. Now, plans what others do not see, you said.
Sees what others do not see.
See, yes. Tell me a little bit more about what you've done, you've been able to do with your work, Krishna. Of course, you have been able to put together a company called Simonics, and you are an inventor. All right, you invented something very amazing. Of course, you see what people do not see. What gets into your mind when you are in your creative process, and what actually inspires you to do what you do?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's not something that just comes at the spur of the moment. I think it comes from a fundamental objective. So this science is a discovery more than in an invention. The invention is how you apply the discovery, but the discovery comes about with comes from being very curious about who am I, where am I, what are we doing here, what's the point? And there's a lot of kind of logical arguments, you know, scientifically. We've got religious scriptures, we've got spiritual scriptures and all sorts, but our approach to facts is the scientific method. And if such things are true, which I believe they are, then there should be a scientific bridge. It needs to be science, because science is, we're not science, science is a method, but it's already there. So the objective was to understand the mind and the brain, spiritual and matter. And so the discovery came about by investigating, you know, what's going on, where are we, what we're doing. And one of the main outstanding puzzles is, you know, where is the mind, what is it? And because that's where everything is. So the mind-brain explanatory gap is an outstanding issue. And so this discovery is like a step that bridges our understanding in the mind and the brain relationship in a scientific method. And so that creative element comes in kind of just looking at things and looking at them and investigating them, and kind of not taking things that we kind of take for granted. You know, the structure we're in, we were born into this kind of social structure and think that's everything. There's a lot more, you know, just understanding how we work, our tools, our eyes, our senses, our brain. It's not everything, you know, and the creative element is to step out of that and then to approach every circumstance in that way.
Amazing.
So that's how that, you know, Simonics came about, because it was a way to measure the mind using the EEG, which is electrical impulses, brain waves, and then there's a lot of information in there. So how to understand the activity in the brain waves is where the discovery is at.
Unbelievable, amazing. Gina, tell me what matters to you in leadership.
What matters to me in leadership? Can I just quickly touch on a point that
please. Yes.
She touched on? I think it's very, very key as a scientist. I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said it's not about inventing, it's more about discovering, because I think I read somewhere that the very first scientists in this world, because there's always this sort of argument between, or separation between science and religion, or science and God, where the very first scientists in this world, they understood that there was a lawmaker, so they set out to discover the lawmaker and his laws, and your approach is sort of fantastic, because not a lot of people still believe that, you know, we have to separate this thing. I don't think they are separated. Like I said, we have a mind, someone created a mind, let's go and discover this mind. But bringing into your question about leadership, so can you repeat the question?
What matters to you?
What matters to me about question leadership? I think it's having courage. We can all be. I think not a lot of people regard themselves as leaders. I think everyone is born to be a leader in some capacity. Not everyone can be the next presidents or the prime ministers, but you could be a leader in your home. You could be a leader in your community. You can be a leader at some stage in your life. And a lot of people, they don't acknowledge themselves as leaders. So because of that, they fail to even bother to cultivate leadership skills, or to be courageous enough to step out, because they feel it's not really my responsibility. And I'll say up to 95% of the world out there take that attitude, and so we'll leave it up to the leaders to sort out. When my belief is that everybody is a leader, and that's the most important thing. That's the fundamental thing. You're all born with a purpose. You are all born to lead in some capacity. Go find out what that capacity is and take that responsibility.
Exactly. Well, I also think that leadership is about seeing the need and taking the lead. And when you talk about people have that perception, we'll leave that to the leaders. Who are the leaders? You and me. We actually make things happen. If you don't do anything about it, nothing would happen. So something must be done about any particular situation. And so tell me, Onye, briefly, do you think leaders are made or born? What's your perception about that?
I've been asked this question quite a few times. I believe, in my opinion, that leaders are made. You know, a baby doesn't get born out of a mother's womb and says, I'm a leader. So I think circumstances, and what Junior said earlier, is how much if you want to really become and cultivate that skill. So to answer your question, they're definitely not born like that, but I think they're definitely born in situations where they can rise up and become a leader and a reference point to their generation.
Amazing. Reference point in their generation. Talking about reference points, and Sabiru, you're going to tell me what your reference point is, and you're going to also tell me what actually goes into your mind when you're on those stages inspiring other people.
Well, there's a philosophy I follow, that there's a question that hit me very, very young, you know, and it's very philosophical, because this question kind of made me open my eyes as to the true purpose of why I'm here. And this was, you know, kind of touched on by Krishna. The question was, you know, when I leave this world, what will I be remembered for? You know, a young person, I was only about 15, 16 when this question out of the blue randomly struck me in my head. You know, when I leave this world, what will I be remembered for? I don't want to be another statistic that I've come into the world, consumed a lot of the world's good and said goodbye. And that's not me. That's not, because otherwise you won't be remembered for anything. You've not discovered your true purpose. And purpose is one of the 7 P's which I always emphasize to a lot of people. You must always be positive, be passionate in what you do, follow your own vision, you know, perseverance, illustrate hard work. There's others, for example, you need to be patient, you know, and there are certain other factors which I talk about. But for me, trying to understand that question, which struck me very, very young, you know, when you leave this world, what will you be remembered for? It took me years to find out what my true purpose in life was. You know, until I did certain things. And when it came to speaking out on stage, when it came to inspiring people, when it came to writing books, I truly discovered that, hey, when somebody comes up to me and shakes my hand and says, hey, you've changed my life, that opened my eyes to thinking, yes, the world isn't just about me. You know, it's about giving back to society, and society appreciating your own existence, your own presence, and that adds value not only to you as an individual, but to an entire society, to a community, to a nation. And that's what led me to start traveling around the world and understanding about the core values of people, that everybody has certain skills which need to be unlocked, and these skills are only unlocked when they're able to match with individuals who are similar to them in certain skills, capabilities, and intellect. And you know, in developing nations I've been to, and so it's been a challenging journey, but when you meet extraordinary people along the way who are similar to you, whether they're young, whether they're old, you get to discover so much about the world that are not portrayed in mainstream media.
Well, I like the way he speaks with so much passion. He speaks with so much energy, and that, you know, really is something the world needs today. Now, Krishna, tell me, do you think that this generation have a future? Do you see the current present generation having a strong edge to lead?
Absolutely. I mean, there's potential, and there's eagerness, and there's definitely a movement. Again, leadership is not, you don't just lead for the sake of leading. You know, I think you have to be passionate about something, and then that will define, it will just kind of filter out those who are most passionate, and they'll lead and become leaders. And they want to make a difference because they want to make, they need to see a change in whichever area it is. So, and there's a lot of people doing that, and there's lots of, levels of consciousness are increasing. Information exchange is increasing. You know, the internet allows people to have a lot more access to information than ever before. So people who have curious minds are inquiring and questioning things, and then maybe having a feeling that something's right or wrong, and then fighting for it. And because of that information available, I mean, even if you look at a lot of these internet groups that are now coming up, I mean, that's super powerful, but they have a cause. I don't really want to name them. But, you know, I mean, they're challenging governments, you know, the current status quo. I mean, it's incredible, but luckily they have they feel they need to do something. And so they come together collectively over the internet. Again, I find that amazing because with technology, they kind of come together across the world. And again, that's the kind of leadership, but it's almost egoless because it's a collaboration of people doing things. So there's so many different forms of leadership, and you know, this generation is incredibly creative that way to make changes in a non-violent way. That's key. I think that comes with education, and it comes with the access to various leveraging, because you know, internet is now so dependent, digital era that we're in, everything's so dependent on that, and everything's run by money, which is the biggest carrot that everyone's chasing. So yeah, I mean, like with those forms of leveraging, there's different ways of, you know, being a leader. And I think these young kids or this generation have the know-how and the advantage that the other generation didn't have.
Amazing. The young kids have leverage. Tell me, Onye, how are you leading in your community? What exactly are you doing?
I'm leading with excellence.
With excellence.
I think there has to be a distinction between a leader of excellence and a leader of mediocrity or a follower of mediocrity. So I've made up to my mind to become a leader of excellence. Like I said, a visionary is a leader of excellence who sees what others do not see. So once I see the opportunities, I achieve my opportunities and then go back and then show my generation that there's opportunities out there.
How are you doing that?
Through my books, through my keynotes, through my entrepreneurship, really challenging people to become leaders, entrepreneurs, students of distinction. You know, vision, I speak about time management, excellence, you know, how to manage, master, maximize your time. Because every person that we look up to, every great leader knew how to, or knows how to manage, master, maximize their time. From Martin Luther King to Barack Obama, from whoever. I speak about determination. As he touched on earlier, you have to be determined with your passion, because nothing great comes easy. I speak about daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, and of course having a clear defined vision. But I believe not just a clear defined vision, we've got to start thinking global and generational. We're living in a global market. We have to start thinking generational, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. So I'm leading with excellence. With excellence.
Talking about excellence, and I'll move to Junior. Junior, tell me what inspires you to, you know, to be engaged in what you do.
Just knowing that it's possible. It inspires me. I mean, I see a lot of people, everyday people inspire me. I know a lot of people who say, "Oh, pick your role models," and you know, it's like the Richard Bransons are now out there. that's the typical answer. But honestly, I mean, the other day I met a woman who had no arms and no legs, and she needs somebody to help her get out of bed in the morning. I mean, I've got 2 arms and 2 legs, and I still need help getting out of bed in the morning. You know. So I'm thinking, you know, you've got these resources. You are actually able to do these things. Take advantage of these things. Maximize these resources while you have the chance. The reason I wanted to get into business so young, the reason I wanted to achieve so many things so young is because I've got the energy now, I've got the time now. Let me maximize these resources. So just knowing that it's possible alone, it inspires me. Why not push the barriers? I mean, how fast would you drive your car if you knew that you could never crash? You know, you go full force, and that's the type of mindset I approach life with. That if something is possible, if someone else has done it, even if someone else hasn't done it, or if nobody's done it, let's challenge and see how far we can go, and let's see how actually realistic this thing actually is, and just test things and push things to the limit. That's how I live my life, and that's what really inspires me. So when I get an idea, or when I'm set a challenge, that's my usual first approach. Let's see how far we can raise the bar. Let's see how we can take things to a next level. And just that belief and that hope that maybe there is more, maybe there is further, maybe there's more money we can make, maybe there's more people we can reach, maybe there's a wider scope we can take this thing, maybe we can actually change the game with this thing. That hope, that's what drives me on, really.
Change. When we we talk about change, well, there can be positive and negative changes in it. But we are thinking about creating positive change that affects a generation, that changes the life of people from different walks of life. Now, tell me, Krishna, how are you creating this type of change in your own environment?
Well, maybe initially the first change would be the science of it in terms of the work. So the work, if I just summarize, it would be measuring kind of substance levels from your brain directly. Now that's just the very primary level. There must be a lot more information in the brainwaves than just that, and I'm pretty sure of that. But that's still yet to be investigated. And that initially helps with scientific know-how for research, R&D. Maybe we can just take animals out of the equation because we can do it in a much more humane manner, and improve healthcare. And those are very kind of superficial things. I mean, that's the impact of stuff like that. On another level, it's kind of understanding how the brain works and how we measure the mind and the consciousness and how that has an impact on our matter. So how we perceive things impact our body, you know, because how your state of mind is, it can be recorded in the EEG, you know, it picks that up, and that has a direct impact on your actual physical makeup. So it gives importance to your mind. And so how you think, I mean, you're talking about visionary here. I mean, so the link would be what you think, how you perceive things. You have an absolute direct impact in your body. Whereas if you extend to that, it may be impacting not just your body, but the entire universe, right? And that's how maybe a visionary can manifest their visions, because that's how strong their belief is to be able to then manifest it. So, you know, there's signals always constantly being sent out. It doesn't stop, energy doesn't stop. Your thought matter is constantly out there. So how that, you know, I think that we give a lot of importance to matter stuff that we can see, feel, touch here, but you can't really, there's a lot of importance that needs to be put on our own thoughts, because it has a huge silent impact, domino impact, not just to our body, but who knows where else it goes. So in a change in terms of this stuff, I think that's why it bridges a lot of the spiritual stuff with the scientific findings, because it gives that link, something that's measurable, that we can measure this activity. So that's a very baby step in that you know, path of investigation. But yeah, also empowers you, because you realize that your thought have an impact. So what you believe matters. That's the thing, your thought. matters. So that then changes absolutely everything, doesn't it, really? Because it changes your chemistry, it changes your health, your perspective, your interactions with people, your life instantly. So that's the real kind of depth of the change for everybody.
Change for everybody. Tell me, Saviru, another amazing young man that I've gotten to know in this space of how long have I known you? Pretty short, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
but you inspire a certain type of change, and when you're on those journeys, traveling all over the globe, tell me, what do you think is the state of youth leadership within the countries that you've visited?
Because I mainly travel to developing nations, and initial thoughts and interests are stereotype. You're looking at countries, for example, in Africa. If you look at Botswana, if you look at Zambia, or even in South Asia, I've been to many countries there. The subjects they study, the influences they have around them are all people who are, yes, they're leaders to some extent, but they're all teaching the same factors and are not broadening the spectrum of the minds of the youth that are growing up. So there, for example, in common field is medicine, common field is engineering. So common field is, all these sort of subjects that are being taught. Now, when you connect leadership to that, you want to broaden their spectrum and say, we can guide you to this sort of field in life. You're born with a million opportunities in this world. Now try and embrace as much as possible. But there's nobody standing up and saying, yes, I can actually take you guys on a journey in life to be able to live a true meaning in life and to tell a story. No, there's people always just saying, yeah, I want to grow up and I want to become this sort of individual because he's done it. Yeah, now I want to do it. No, it doesn't work like that. You find your own core passion, you find your own meaning in life, and you explore that. And the young generation worldwide, especially in developing nations, are being misled in that sense because they're not exposed to what they can do, their own skills. They don't know what their skills are. If I asked a young person nowadays, so who are you, where do you want to go, what do you want to do, and what you represent at this moment in time, they would not have a clue because they don't know themselves. The understanding of self-discovery helps you develop and unveil certain factors about you which a year ago you would not thought existed. So these are key factors which help unveil leadership, and that's what leads to change. When it leads to change where you grow up, you become this individual who holds these true values in life, that it's not always about what you study in school. It's not always about the certain things that you're taught when you're growing up, but certain things you explore for yourself. No, like I said, what the mind says to you. The mind is so important. The mindset is what needs to change. The mentality has to be very positive in whatever field you approach. I think that's very, very important.
Correct. Now, Gina, tell me, do you think that there must be a shift in consciousness, the way that, continuing from where you left off, that there's been a certain challenge that young people are having, especially in developing countries? What do you think are some of the contributing factors that actually limits these young people?
Excellent question. Definitely media. Media is a huge influence upon how we think about ourselves, how we think about our environment, the level of aspirations we have, and how attainable it is as well. Whatever's portrayed in the media is really what we're consuming. The way I see it is whatever you're taking in, your eyes, your ears and everything around you, that's what you're going to sort of manifest out again. So it's either we try to change the media, which a lot of people have been trying to do for years, and it's looking like I don't want to say a lost cause, but it's a very uphill battle to try and change the media's perception. Because like I said, we're governed by what sells, and unfortunately negative stuff sells. People want to consume negative stuff as a planet.
Well, that's what's promoted. Really,
exactly. So that's what's going to continue. So it's a cycle.
Well, that's why I got Onion Yard on Media House to change.
There you go.
Just to change the what you see and what you do. Yeah. So as you were saying, and it was a great point that sometimes you watch the news, and it's good to, being current is the currency of life. But when you sit down and watch the news and it's negative, for us as leaders, it might not necessarily affect us. But for that young person in South London, in South Africa, in Bangladesh, in Australia, if they're all they're seeing is negativity, they're going to live a life of negativity. And it takes for people like us to really change that mindset.
But I don't think it stops at just news, does it? Because it's also the stuff that we're sold in the media. So the ideas and what's we should aim for. I mean, some of it is, I mean, I look at it and I just say, he's seriously going to sell that? But I can't believe how many people are influenced by the things that are sold, you know, on television or through the media. As you said, quite rightly, that it's an uphill battle to try and fight the media, but you'd empower individuals by giving them, letting them know that how significant they are, and through self-realization and who they are and what they're about, so that they can judge for themselves whether they want to be influenced by it or not.
I think this day and age we're living in, we touched on it before about technology, it's given us, it's given us more room to speak. Some people speak in negative things, but it's also given, you know, us the opportunity to speak positive things. So I think now more than ever, young people actually have a choice of what channels they zone into in terms of what they're feeding themselves. We actually have a better choice of our media diet, rather than we're just being force-fed this thing. So I think if any young people out there wanting to be leaders, it's on to you to take responsibility. While we're still fighting that uphill battle to change the media, you can actually win your own personal battle by deciding what magazines you read, what type of people you listen to, what type of advice you try to consume, and what type of people you surround yourself with, because that's your network. That's what you're going to keep aspiring to become.
Great. What type of people you surround yourself with also defines the type of person that you are. It's getting interesting in the studio, and we would now like to pause for a commercial break. When we're back, we're right at you with more information from these amazing young leaders.